Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the quarantine sessions. It's going to be a super, super exciting session today because we have a stellar guest. She's a power woman. She's an entrepreneur. She was the general manager of Kareem in Egypt. She also handled the whole launch of Kareem Bus in Egypt. Hadeer Shalaby, thank you so, so much for joining us today.
Valentina, thank you so much, and thank you for the amazing introduction.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so much.
thank you.
Yeah, so basically, we are here to talk about how to handle the crisis with COVID-19, how to handle the situation that has been placed by this pandemic. And we would like to hear about different aspects related to team building. Can you hear me? I see it's a little bit, there's a freeze in the screen. Can you all hear me? I'm sorry.
You're back.
I don't know what's happening with internet. It keeps logging me out. That's why. Okay, so now I connected to a different network.
It's okay.
Hopefully it's gonna stay. Yeah.
Okay. No worries. No worries.
So thank you again for.
We're back.
Thank you, Hadeer. So how has it been with the quarantine in terms of working from home, in terms of the work that you are doing now, which would be really interesting to know as well after you left Kareem. What are you up to?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky. I'm one of the few that are not working actually from home because I'm not working at the moment. I left Kareem back in January, right before the quarantine started. I had big plans of traveling the world and going for a surfing course in Sri Lanka, visiting my cousin in Australia, and all those nice dreams that were all shattered the minute they decided to close down the airports. So I flew back to Cairo after a couple of days of starting my trip actually. So at the moment, I'm just chilling and learning a bit, taking some courses, whether personal, like cooking courses and stuff like that, or things more on the professional side. So I'm just really like enjoying the routine of being at home, spending time with family.
Nice, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we have some participants that have already joined. Hi, Ahmed. Hi, Mahmoud. Hi, Omar. We would love to hear where you are from. We would love to hear in the comments if you are a founder, if you have a startup. Ahmed is saying, we are ClickMayor Healthcare. Nice to follow your webinar. I think the working from home will end very soon. Inshallah, let's see what happens. Thank you, Ahmed. Yeah, so we're here to talk about how to handle the COVID crisis with your teams. And Hadeer, I wanted to start by introducing the idea of working with your team, introducing the idea of having a company culture with your team.
Yep.
Can you tell us what is exactly a company culture?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are so many things to say about a company culture. A lot of people will tell you, yeah, you need to build the vision and the mission and the values and those things. So I will not tell you that. Of course, you need to do all those things. But I will tell you at the core of it, at the end of it, what is it really that I believe founders or co-founders need to do. And I think the first part of it is how you act in every single situation that happens, because everyone is observing you as a founder or as a leader, or even as any person, to be honest, in an organization. When a new person joins, they check how you act, how you react to every single situation, and based on this, they start getting their understanding of the culture of that organization. So it's really not about talking about it. It's not about building the perfect PowerPoint presentation, putting all those incredible principles. I really don't believe in that. I don't think this is how things fly or how things happen, but it's more how you act as a person. Mm-hmm. Which takes us to the next point, which is basically you hiring the right people and firing the wrong people as soon as possible, which is obviously not an easy thing to do in any way. But as much as we talk about firing the wrong people, still a lot of people do not have the courage to make that step, or keep on saying things will change, things will become different. But I really recommend that if you have someone that you don't feel is fitting the culture or the values that you set for your own startup, make the decision today, not tomorrow, but make it today, you know? Yeah, and then the final point would be, okay, if I do have those kind of things in place, then am I really encouraging the right behaviors in place? Am I discouraging the bad ones? And sometimes you'll find yourself maybe 90% of the time you're doing the right thing, but 10% of the time, you know, because this guy is really, really good at what he's doing, so you're just like, you're letting him be, you're letting him do things that go against what you believe in. But even those 10%, everyone else observes it, and it does affect them in a way or another. So yes, I would say, like, act the way you want everyone to act. Make sure your top leaders are acting in that way as well. Hire people that fit your culture. Fire people really, really fast, and make sure that you encourage or discourage those kind of behaviors.
There's so much involved in this, right? Because we're talking about leadership basically, and there's so many circumstances and moments that you can't foresee, right? Is there a way in which you can assess from the beginning? You know, you were saying hire the right people, fire the wrong people.
Yeah.
Is there a way in which you can keep assessing that on a regular basis?
Yeah, so for sure there isn't a way that is 100% guaranteed, but I can maybe share a couple of things I have done before. One of them is whenever we accept someone for a certain role, I always take them for breakfast before we give them the offer. Just for breakfast, not an interview, it's nothing, it's outside of their comfort zone. They do not expect what's going to happen, so they cannot really prepare for it. You tend to see them somehow in a different environment, so that makes a very big difference. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I ask a lot of people that have worked with them before. Sometimes we shy away from doing that, or we ask one person, and sometimes if you ask one person and he might be very nice, or in our culture, we don't want to be the person, you know, that puts some bad news for someone. So I tend to ask maybe 3-4 people that have worked with that person before. And the third one is, of course, make more people meet that guy. Don't just do the interview yourself. Do the interview yourself, but also make maybe 2 or 3 other people do the same thing, just to collect more on that person. Yeah.
Right. Why is it important to set these things on basically on paper or on the leadership mindset?
You mean why is culture important?
Exactly.
It's not just important. I think culture is everything. Culture and people combined are everything. And when I reflect on my previous experiences before, I can easily connect the dots and say that most of the failures that I have been through before were because of people or the culture that was set around them. And if you think about it, even you guys, if you think of certain people that you've known that have worked in different teams before, can you see how sometimes they are different? Like they act somehow differently in each team that they've worked at. Yeah, at the core, of course, they are the same people, but certain behaviors sometimes tend to shine on different teams. So if everyone around me is complaining, subconsciously I would feel weird if I'm the only one not complaining, right? So I would start complaining as well. If everyone around me is working really hard until 9 p.m. at night, then I will feel uncomfortable if I'm not doing the same thing. And I've had the same experience myself. When I had just graduated, I was working in the Netherlands in a very, very nice team where everyone cared so much about each other. And in the beginning, I felt a bit weird, you know, why am I not caring like them? I also want to care so much for my team. And that part of my personality started shining on that specific team. So technically speaking, as a founding team or as a people team or whatever, it's your job to think what are those behaviors that you want them to shine in people working on that specific. We want to work, we all want to make a living, but how come certain teams they tend to get this bad side of my persona while other teams get to shine some other part?
Right. Yeah. Speaking of values and speaking of having those kind of frameworks, how often do you need to revise them? Do you actually need to revise them? How do you make sure everyone is aligned with those core values?
Yeah. So I really think values are not something that should change. Same as the vision. I think as much as you can, try to spend as much time as it's needed in the beginning, whether that is a month or 6 months or 1 year, to make sure that you have the right set of values. Because you are hiring all those people on those set of values. If you do change your values somewhere in the middle, then what does that mean for everyone else that joined in the early days, right? And I've been in organizations before like ISIC, which I don't know for how many years they've kept the same values, but for tens and tens of years, it has been the same set of values. In Careem, we did change the values once in the middle, but to be honest, now that I try to recall the values in my mind, I can only remember the old ones. And I that's because I was hired on those values. I lived on them for a couple of years. They were extremely simple as well. Yani, one word values, in my opinion, are the best. You can easily remember, guys, we need to be bold. You know, we need to be focused. Instead of saying a certain sentence that, even though it does explain the value a lot more, but it's really, really hard for people to remember later on. And to relate to it. Yani, it's very easy to tell me, Hadeer, can I do this next week? Not today. And I can be like, no, but you need to be agile, which is one of our values, you know? Can you just be agile and make it happen? So I think values should be simple and relatable. They come up a lot in certain situations every day.
Right. Earlier we were talking about these values. You were telling me, right, about these values that you had at Careem. Can you give us as an example for us to understand, what do one-word values look like?
So the three things that come to mind now is bold, agile, focused. Those were three of the top things we had in our older values. Yeah.
Amazing. So they work as a reminder. You can even create different sort of, souvenirs and different sorts of things, stickers and things that keep people engaged with them, right?
Yeah. Yani, later on, when we move to more sentences, it's very hard for me now to remember, actually, even though they are the more recent values.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't come up as natural to my mind.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Let's talk about the current situation, COVID-19. Earlier on, Ahmed Yusuf was asking here on the webinar how to face the low motivation that appears in working from home, right? There's so many issues. There is the uncertainty, the anxiety with you as a founder and with your teams as well, right? I'd love to start talking about how to deal with this. I know that you have a full presentation prepared, so let's just dive in there. And please, to everyone attending the webinar, please send us your questions. Tell us if you're a founder, what's your startup. We'd love to hear and we'd love to have this conversation.
All right, let me just share my screen. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So guys, so I need a bit of interaction from you as we start. Before we start, I just have one simple question, which is, what do you guys think those startups have in common, if anything?
WhatsApp, Instagram, Uber, Pinterest, Groupon, Slack. I mean, we're
so you guys can type. I cannot see the comments, actually, Valentina, so I don't know if you can see them. So if anyone comments.
Guys, if you have come up with something in your mind, I think probably were they founded during a previous crisis? I'm just guessing.
Actually, that's that's exactly what happened. So I wanted to start with that slide mainly because a lot of people think, oh my God, this is like the worst time to start my own startup or for us to grow, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone who's doing their own startup, guys, this list of startups, they all started in the 2008-2009 recession. So there is hope, and they ended up being who they are today.
Right. Ahmed is saying a free service. If the free service is what they have in common.
No, so that is not it. And they're not free. Uber is not free for sure. But that is what they have in common. I just wanted to give you guys hope that even though it's super, super challenging now, and a lot of people will give up, but those that don't and do find the right opportunity, then it is a great time actually to be starting your own thing. So answering the question of what should I do now as a founder with this unprecedented craziness that you cannot just go ask your mentor or your dad what to do because they've been through the same. No, they haven't. So we kind of need to figure that out ourselves. So the first point, so I have like 6, 7 points. I'll take you guys through them, and please, after each point, if you have any questions, feel free to type it or just ask immediately. So the first thing is basically the main thing your team expects out of you, which is to answer to your people, what is the plan now? Even if that plan changes every day, even if you don't know what the hell you're going to do, but your team expects you to always have an answer and to be super confident about the answer that you're giving. It will create some anxiety if you give the answer of, oh, I don't know, like the whole world doesn't know, so what do I know? So the first thing that I didn't even like count it in my points is answer confidently, what is the plan now? The second point, and I will dig a bit deeper in that one, is taking care of your people. So answering Ahmed Yusuf's question, which is, what do we do now with the team? We're not used to running a team in that sort of way. But before I give you the answer, I actually have a couple of facts that I found that I just want to share with everyone here. The first 2 points are more related to the Middle East. And it's about how employees in the Middle East are actually far below the global average when it comes to the likelihood of staying with their employers. So we tend to leave the companies that we're in a lot more often. And the second point is only 1/3 of employees actually in the Middle East are highly engaged in their jobs, according to the survey that was done. The third point is actually super interesting. It's not about the Middle East. It's in general. It's global. It's data from the 2008 recession. So even though a lot of companies were letting go of their employees, but this is not about companies letting go. This is about people that quit. So large firms lost up to 59% more people of their workforce than normal. I'm telling you this because my next slide is about how you can keep your people, how you can take care of them. So don't ever think that we're in a crisis, no one is going to quit at the moment, they're just going to work, they're just going to be there, they cannot find another job. No, they can. In other recessions, people tend to even leave more than the average. And the last point is that those surveys also suggest that the lack of communication is the top reason why employees tend to leave their jobs. And that's why my next slide is mostly about how to improve your communication with the people in your team. The first point is tell them what's going on. Because when you're in the office, you kind of know what's going on. If people are freaking out, you see them freaking out. If something good happens, you see it happening. If a certain meeting is happening, you see it happening. But if you're at home, you have no idea what's happening except for the emails that you get, for the Zoom calls that you're attending. So over communicate on what's happening. Maybe not even just what's happening in the company, but it could also be what's happening in the country. It could be like you can tell them how many corona cases are there every day. You can tell them what kind of new policies are happening in the country these days. Just make sure that they're very, very well informed because it's extremely easy to miss out on very important information. The second one is, they call it MBWA, which is managing by walking around, which is something that we did all the time. This is how most of us managed our teams before, but we were not necessarily aware of it, is that you walk around the office, you see this guy, you see this girl, you have a conversation here, you have a conversation there while having some coffee with someone that's maybe not even on your team. And somehow this is how you manage to connect with everyone in your team or in the company or in the startup. And the question here is, how can you do that? This is a question each one of you needs to answer for themselves. How can I manage by walking around or calling around or do whatever, but how can I somehow keep that level of engagement and communication with my team? One simple thing I learned when I was leading teams virtually was to make sure that anyone that reports to you, you have to connect with them personally every single day, at least once. Not once in a group email, not once on a Slack channel, but once personally, one-on-one, whether that is a phone call you have with them every day, or a WhatsApp message asking, hey, what's going on? How's everything going? Or a Slack message, but they need to always feel that you are in touch with them. You can do that with your direct team for sure. And you can do it with other people on the team as well. And you can set expectations with your leaders saying, guys, every day I'll be calling one person randomly that doesn't report to me, just to ask how things are going on. Everyone would love it, and they would feel that they are in touch, and they would feel really, really appreciated and respected at such a tough time. The third one is a regular all hands. If you guys are used to having an all hands meeting for the whole company, let's say once every 2 weeks, maybe you want to do that once every week. Or if you do it once a week, maybe you want to do it twice a week. Figure out what is the right rhythm for you. But it's possible that maybe you want to do it more frequent than it used to be in the past. Coach your leaders on how to do that as well. Yani it's not enough that you do this with your direct reports and then you don't care what they do with their teams. You need to ensure that this is being properly cascaded across the organization until the most junior level of it. I know that we're all supposed to stay at home as well, but they say if we do meet someone, it's okay to be, you know, 1.5 meters, I think, away from them. So maybe potentially you want to have some walking meetings with people that report directly to you. You take a small walk around your house or in some sort of a park or garden around the person's house. I think that makes a difference as well in terms of seeing you face to face instead of just having everything online.
Right.
Another point that's very interesting, I think, is creating online interactive competitions or exercises or, for example, because in reality, when you're in the office, there are so many things that happen that you don't plan formally, right? The guys decide to go play football together, or a couple of people decide to go watch a movie together in the theater. How can you recreate that somehow online? So maybe create a channel where everyone can share recipes that they've cooked recently, since everyone is cooking these days, or create another channel where people can post how they restructured their closets and like vote on who's the most organized person. I don't know, anything. It could be anything that is not related to work, that is just fun, that is interesting, where people share about their personal life, so we can still keep that feeling of family, of team, of fun, and not just sitting at home doing nothing, right? So those are mostly the points for taking care of your people. And the last point, which is the most sensitive point at the moment, which is be very careful about layoffs. Unfortunately, a lot of people have to go through this at the current moment. So let me take you through my thinking process. At the very beginning, at level 1 of it, of course, the preference is not to lay off anyone. And a lot of people would recommend instead that senior leaders that can afford to maybe let go of their salaries or let go of a big part of their salaries, that this is like the first step, you know, as a first step, me as a founder, us as leaders, we're going to let go of a certain percentage of our salary. A second step would be the whole team actually cutting off a certain percentage of their salary as well. And that kind of gives the feeling that us as leaders are making this sacrifice first ourselves, and then we're all together in that same boat, instead of firing a certain percentage and having everyone else and still get it fully paid, you know? So that's usually like the first level. If that is not possible, which is a possibility as well, because it's a very, very tough time now, and you do need to let people go, then my one advice would be communication is key, because a lot of people now are feeling anxiety. They're super scared. There's usually a lot of gossip that comes out as well. So I would say make sure there's no gossip. If you did make the decision, try to communicate it as soon as possible before people start talking everywhere about it. Make sure that the exit is very smooth, is very generous, that you help them as well, help the colleagues or the employees that are leaving with opportunities maybe in other locations. You would see a lot of startups these days doing lists of people that are leaving because they're good, right? So lists with their names, positions, LinkedIn profiles, and so on. And finally, take care of the security as well, the security of your data. Of course, like in a great situation, you would trust everyone that works for you for sure. But it's a bit tricky to make sure to let people go really fast and be transparent, but at the same time, lock all the data, make sure that you close all the access to everything. So I would say those are usually like the two things that are very important at such a time.
Right. Ahmed Yusuf is asking, please advise if there is an employee that doesn't match the company culture, Should I fire to search another one, or let him just not be, or let him just not to be a firing company?
Fire him for sure. What do you mean not to be a firing company? That in my mind, that's not a thing, because to be successful, you will have to fire, because we're not perfect, and there is no process, at least that I know of at the moment, that is perfect. So you will make mistakes, and that's okay. And yeah, there's nothing. It's okay to be. I mean, what do you mean a firing company? I think it's completely fine. Of course, it's not it's not healthy if you're firing 50-60% of the people that you're hiring. Then something is fundamentally wrong. But if the percentage is healthy, then I would say fire the guy tomorrow. And one thing I've learned in Kareem as well, across the years, is that if someone resigns, or if you let go of someone, try to have them leave the office as soon as possible. Do not let, of course, pay them all their money fairly. But there's no, usually when people know that they're leaving, they kind of automatically quit in their minds. And a lot of them tend to create negative energy in the workplace. So you probably want to leave as soon as the decision is made.
Right. He added something. He says, getting a reputation that this company is firing their employees. This is what he was meaning by being a firing company.
Yeah. No, I understand what you mean, Ahmed, and I think it's okay. To be honest, if you let go of one person, that will not give you that reputation, right? If you let go of a big percentage of people, maybe then that would be an issue, for sure, and then that's something you should be careful about. But if it's about one person that is not a cultural fit, then I think it's okay. Just go for it.
Right. Yeah. So let's move on to the next slide.
Yeah. So that was on the people part. I don't know if anyone has questions. If anyone has questions, guys,
please write them in the comments. We're going to be taking all the questions to Hadeer.
Yeah.
If not,
awesome.
Yeah, we can continue with the slides. And if there are questions with regarding previous topics, we can keep going and then refer back to the previous topic.
Awesome. The third one, in the situation we're in, please feel free, please make sure to update your customers as well, in case you guys are changing anything in your service, your working hours, even if you're not changing anything, it's always good to communicate to your customers as well, just to let them know what's going on with you, just to make sure that they trust that you're doing the right thing. The fourth thing is building robust, detailed reporting systems. What do I mean here? I don't mean just reporting on your numbers and profits and revenues and so on, but I mean something a bit more detailed related to the situation that we're in today. So for example, do you have systems in place to know if one of your employees or technicians or drivers or whatever gets corona? Do you have a system in place to know that? What if you do know that? Do you have a way to track back for the last 2 weeks who this person has been in contact with? Are you able to track this? And what steps comes from that point forward? Do you ask those people to stay at home, or do you ask them to do something else, or how would you? So all those things, you somehow need to figure out a way where you can easily track it. What if one of your suppliers had a case and they do deliver all those supplies to you, for example? So just keep that in mind and try to figure this out. So in case something happens, then you are 100% ready for it.
Right.
The fifth point is to communicate with your investors, and that's very important. Sometimes when a disaster like this happens, we just get super consumed with firefighting and with what's happening every day, and we do forget to communicate with our investors, who are the people trusting us with this the most. And put in mind that your investor is probably dealing with 6, 7, 8 that are going through the same exact situation, and they can probably see the founder who's confused, the founder who's freaking out, but they can also see the founder who's very well prepared and know what's next, and you probably want to be that kind of founder for them. So I will not go through those questions, but those are just questions that you can imagine your investors, they want to know this about you. They want to see that you can, if you remember the first point we spoke about, that you can confidently answer the question of what should we do now. Yeah.
Right.
The sixth point is preparing for how it could get worse. because guys, we don't know what's going to happen next, but we can maybe make some assumptions. So what do we do if Egypt gets in full lockdown? It's possible, right? Dubai just had that a few weeks ago. What happens if one of your leaders or yourself gets sick? What if some of your critical employees, they refuse to come to work and they said, we want to work from home, or their job cannot be done from home? What if one of your suppliers completely stops working because the factory had to close down, or they had a case, or if they actually become bankrupt? What would happen in all those situations? What's your plan? What's your backup plan? And so on and so forth. And again, those are just examples, but you guys need to go through that with your teams or on your own as a start.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So we can go to the last point out of those main points, which is asking yourself, and this is very, very important. And I know it's the hardest thing to do actually, which is ask yourself, will our company still exist in this new world? It is a new world. And I get surprised when a lot of people say, don't worry, it's a few weeks and then everything will go back to normal. It doesn't seem like things will go back to normal, whatever that means. But something will change. And you need to assess that if your company is going to be one of those things that changes or one of those things that goes back to normal. But you don't want to be naive, like shops that used to sell movies in the past or sell CDs when streaming came out, and they were like, oh, it's fine, we'll just decrease the number of shops we have. No, guys, you need to completely pivot your business. You see the Ubers of the world that came and then they took a lot of business from taxis at some point. So people that were investing in taxis maybe should have invested in something else at the time. So please ask yourself this question every day for the last couple of days, for the next couple of days or weeks. Do you need to change your business in any way? Do you need to pivot? If not, if your core business is the same, then maybe ask yourself, do I need to change any of the current roles or any of the current functions that I have in my organization? So what do we do now? Or what can you do today since there's nothing to do and none of you probably can be in the street after 20 minutes? So maybe take some time alone. Those are a lot of points and a lot of questions that I just mentioned. So maybe take some time alone and reflect on all the above questions on your own, not with anyone as a start. Later on, you can share with your team or with your co-founders, but just take maybe 1 hour or 2 hours today or tomorrow and think of all those points. Don't delay it to next week. Don't delay it to next month. You will never do it if that's the case. Try to take that time tonight or tomorrow morning and think of all those points. And build the routine at home. I found that to be very, very useful. It's amazing that we don't have so many distractions in life right now, and you can basically do everything you've ever wanted to do. So you can say, oh, well, I'm going to wake up at 8, play some sports, read my book for 30 minutes, then work until this time, and then cook and whatever your routine is. But I found that to be incredibly, incredibly helpful, and allows me to do most things I want to do at the moment. But yeah, a part of that home routine, as you all know, is the working from home situation. And this can be a session on its own, but I thought today we can also talk a bit about it because I think it's interesting for some people as well. And I found those things to be very, very useful. So the first thing is set the right environment. Do not work from your bed. Do not work from the couch. Try to sit on a proper table. Put your phone on silent if you're in a meeting. Do not be like checking emails while you're on a Zoom call, which usually you wouldn't do if you're in an actual meeting room, you know. Yeah. Have your coffee next to you, your water, like just make yourself comfortable. Maybe have some sunlight enter into the room.
Something I do every day is I get dressed. I take a shower. I get dressed as I did when I was going out to work. Yeah. I find it very, so if I am working, because I have like several, colleagues and that like to work and they keep their pantoufles in their feet, right? Because you're at home. If I'm not wearing shoes or sneakers, I'm wearing sports sneakers right now under a dress. It doesn't match. If anyone sees me, it's terrible. But I feel that I am actually awake, active, and productive. It's probably a psychological thing, but it really helps.
No, I agree 100%. I used to attend most of my meetings before with a nice shirt and my pajama pants. But guys, I promise today I'm not. I'm wearing my jeans. So I'm trying to do what I'm preaching, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does make a huge difference, to be honest, just to be properly dressed for that.
Yeah.
And I think we've all, Valentina, we've all heard a lot of funny stories about families like coming into the room asking for the laundry, or
Yes.
making like funny comments while you're on a call with your boss or something.
Yeah.
So one thing is to obviously set expectations with your family. Maybe even put a paper on your door saying, guys, I'm in a meeting from 9 to 11. Please do not disturb.
Just
Or from 1 to 3, I'll be free. So feel free to budge in. So yes, setting expectations with the family is very important as well, to make you even feel how formal this is. And setting expectations also with yourself, to be honest, because you might end up working a lot more hours when you're at home, because there is no differentiation of I need to leave now. So whether that is done by being in a certain room and then pushing yourself out of that room at 6 or at 7, or however you want to make it, but set expectations with your family and with yourself, please. Use a video camera is quite important. And now, guys, you have no idea how hard this is, that I'm giving you a session without seeing any of your faces. It's quite annoying for me, but at least I can see Valentina, so I can kind of, have an idea of how people are possibly reacting to this. But it's very hard to tell, are you guys happy? Are you enjoying this session? Are you not? Usually in real life, you can see, okay, people seem a bit, bored, so I need to move faster with this point, or they seem that they're very happy with what I'm saying, so great, I know feedback is good. So imagine if that's your boss or someone on your team or whatever. It's extremely hard for them if you don't have your camera on, and it's hard for you as well to understand what they're thinking if it's not on. So I would make that mandatory, to be honest, for all my team members. I don't care, guys, dress properly, but you need to open your cameras.
Right.
That's the least you can do, Yani.
Yeah.
And finally, figure out what's your way of project management. How do you want to do that? Whether it's there are so many tools. An example of them is Asana. So, I mean, check all the tools, see whatever is better for you. Different tools do different things that are needed at the moment. But yeah, those are mostly the points I had in mind for working from home. And yeah, this is just a summary.
We have another question.
Sorry?
Ahmad, we have a question from Ahmad Omar. He says, do you agree that leaders and CEOs of organizations need to adopt entirely new ways of work from home, remote sites, more flexible hours? It is time that the leaders realize that the markets and products are changing, so are the ways of work as well.
Yeah, honestly, I do agree with that statement, even after this is done. Yeah, this was a huge realization for a lot of us, that working from home is okay and it works. And a lot of people tell you that they're working a lot more than they used to in the office.
Yeah.
Is it perfect? Of course, it's not perfect. Is Zoom the perfect platform? It is not. But I'm sure that thousands of startups are starting right now to solve for this problem, to make working from home seamless in the next couple of months, at least by 2020, by end of 2020, I'm sure this will start being a seamless experience. People are realizing we don't need to pay for rent as much as we did living in Cairo, man. Like, it's crazy having to commute from the east to the west. So yes, I do think it's gonna change for sure.
Yeah. So Ahmad Yusuf also has a question. He's saying the productivity is very low due to home working. Especially there are some businesses that depend on dealing with the customer. Unfortunately, the client trusts in the company whose employees are in their offices. How to change our client culture?
So you're saying, sorry, you cut off in the middle. So you're saying that clients don't like the fact that employees are working from home.
Exactly. That he perceives in his industry that clients trust more the companies that see employees at the office as opposed to working from home. In parallel to that, working from home, productivity became lower in his perception, right? So how to change that client culture and how to perhaps improve productivity?
Yeah. So, I mean, to be fair, at the end of the day, of course, not every single role can be from home. And I do not imagine that everyone would work 5 days a week from home. Like, that's a bit also very optimistic. But I think that a lot of companies would maybe have team meetings to be in the office once or twice a week. maybe brainstorming sessions, that's very important, or maybe client facing instances, as Ahmed is mentioning, maybe this is important as well. And maybe clients are judgmental of that today, but maybe in a year or two they won't be as judgmental. Maybe this is just how they're so used to life being, but at some point maybe it will change. Now about productivity, it's interesting that you would say that, because most people I spoke with, they felt that productivity was a lot higher.
Yeah.
But still, I think, I mean, you're right, it is not a seamless experience yet. But I really think it will be. And the same way that books were written about leadership and culture and so on, books will be written about how to increase productivity from home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my experience, I've also heard from lots of entrepreneurs, particularly in Egypt and Italy, that are saying, they are finding this time more productive than ever. They're finding themselves and their teams working even harder. So I think these are some positive signs, but yeah, as you said, it's not seamless. It's gonna take a while to kind of adjust, right? Yeah. So you were saying we have a summary of kind of the main lessons that we extract from today. You have the last minutes, guys, to ask your questions. So please send them in the comments or in the Q&A section. We're gonna read them as we summarize sort of this whole session. Go ahead, Hadeer. Yeah.
So this is just the summary of today. Be confident on what needs to happen. Take care of your people, please. Update your customers, build detailed reporting systems. Do communicate with your investors. You don't need to communicate with them every day, but you just need to be structured in how you communicate to them. Make sure they have the important piece of information they want. Prepare for how it could get worse. That was what will differentiate you between you and competition or other people that are not well prepared for this. And finally, ask yourself the golden question of, do you need to pivot your business model? Will it work when this world changes in a couple of months?
Well, that's
it from my side.
Question.
Yeah.
Essential question, I would say. So we have one more question. It's a comment actually from Ahmed Omar. Very inspiring session. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. Thank you so much.
That's amazing. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Hadeer. Thank you for sharing all these insights. It's been really, really rich. It's been incredibly empowering, I would say. And it is the word I choose today because it is, I believe, what we say. in the midst of these feelings of hopelessness, you gave us a little bit of light. Ahmed is saying, do you advise...
Thank you, Valentina.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the nice words, really.
Ahmed is saying, do you advise to utilize this time to more preparing a new team to avoid missing anyone? Do you advise? It's the same question twice. I don't know if I understood it correctly. Do you advise?
What do you mean?
Utilizing this time to preparing for a new team to avoid missing anyone? Ahmed, if you want to read.
Can you clarify? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure we understand what you mean with the question. To prepare for a new team and avoid missing any talents, or to prepare for what? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
you got it. By the way, so tomorrow, make sure that you're signing up through the link on the event in our posts. Tomorrow we have a very, very interesting session with Ayman Ashur from Cairo Angels. He's going to be talking about crisis management and the lessons he learned managing and dealing with crisis in different continents, from Asia to Europe to Egypt and the Middle East. So please don't miss it. Make sure you register so that we send you the Zoom link every day. Otherwise, we are posting every session on our Facebook page. You're going to find this session as well on our Facebook page tonight. Okay, here's Ahmed's explanation. We need to build a new team to avoid anyone that can stop due to this situation.
But what do you mean stop here?
Do you mean like that the business will sort of get halted? Is that what
I'm not sure if it's about building a new team, but maybe have backup plans in case one of your suppliers, let's say, bankrupts. I mean, if someone from the team gives up.
Yeah.
I think that depends on the resources that you have as well. If you do have resources to prepare people Yeah, I mean, usually how it works in some startups is what they do is we do meet excellent people that we don't necessarily have roles for at the moment, and we keep on meeting those people all the time, so that when a role comes up, all right, I have this guy in mind that I know would fit, I just call him up and get him, and he's already done the whole process. And we set the right expectations from the beginning. We're like, look, we don't have a role for you right now, but we're happy to speak to you, so you get to know us, we get to know you. And sometimes from that conversation, roles actually get created specifically for a certain person, which is not the right thing to do in big corporations, but in small startups, that's okay to do. So maybe that's one way, Ahmed, of just meeting a lot of people, so that when something happens, you already have someone in place.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. We've exhausted the questions and we've exhausted the time. Thank you so much again, Hadeer. It's been a really, really empowering session. Look forward to seeing you soon in Cairo, inshallah. And
inshallah.
Have a great time in quarantine. Let's make use of this. There's a lot of opportunity, so let's make the best possible use.
Yes, a lot of cleaning and cooking and and running around the house to lose calories. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I hope you guys enjoyed that session. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you, Valentina, for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.